Hi everyone, it is Jenny Henderson from Chrysalis Business Support. Good, hello and welcome. I am here on my little TV show, which at the moment is called Self Cocoon TV. As you know, I've been doing a series of videos with people within my network over the last couple of weeks, hoping to bring you some great information, some content and some hints and tips how you as business owners and entrepreneurs can be managing your sales and marketing and your business development activities over this time. And today I am delighted to be joined by Dr. Dave Bird, whose business is Small Biz Digital Media. Hi, Dave.
Hi, and hi to everybody, hopefully viewing.
Excellent. Thank you for joining me. Now, I've known Dave for probably a couple of years now, actually. A few months. We do a number of networking groups together. And I love what Dave stands for. I love what Dave does and how he helps business owners. And hopefully we're going to explain a little bit about that over the next few minutes or so. And I know that Dave's got some great hints and tips for you. And what we're talking about here is video, how we can be using digital media and videos to help you explain your products and services, and how you can be getting yourselves out there in front of your competition, seen as a little bit different, maybe with some different ideas of video that you might not have thought of before. And I'm sure we'll be putting up some examples down below in the chat box of videos that Dave has done for business owners that might give you an idea about how you can be using things and video as you move forward with your lead generation and your business development activities. So Dave, thanks so much for joining me. Hope you are well. You're in Malvern, aren't you? You're over kind of Malvern way.
Yeah, I'm very privileged. I've got my little video studio, as you can see behind me, and I'm nestled in the foothills of the wonderfully internationally recognized Malvern Hills. And as it depicted by my t-shirt, I'm a very keen runner still. I did run at, quite a high level, and I did a lot of marathon coaching, but now I run for, health and well-being, and I get up in those hills. So it's great.
Excellent. I was going to come on to that a little bit later, but you've touched on it now. So let's talk about that. So you did a few marathons. So tell me about which ones you've done and how you got into that.
Yeah, I was basically a middle distance runner, back, when I was kind of peaking, and I was kind of doing 1,500 meter races for Bournemouth Athletic Club. Then I stepped up to the half marathon, and, I ran kind of 65 minutes and was kind of fifth in the Reading half marathon back in the day. But the key thing is I got to the point where I wanted to actually coach marathon runners, and the slight fly in the ointment in terms of credibility was I'd never run a marathon. So in true project management style, I set myself a project of 1 year with the humble kind of aim to run 2 marathons. And this was back in 2010 basically is when I ran them both. I was kind of 45 then, so at the end of my kind of competitive career. And I'm pleased to say, by applying a really kind of rigorous, quite strict project management kind of ethos, which, I know you relate to, Jenny, with all the work you do. I was, my first ever marathon in Florence, I ran 2 hours, 38 minutes. And then in May the following year, I was actually third. I was third in the Edinburgh Marathon. So,
wow.
So very pleased with that. Yeah. So I went on after that, because this is kind of relevant and a good segue to the video. What I realized is, I really wanted to do marathon running coaching, as I say, but a lot of the time what I realized is I was saying the same kind of stuff. And what would be good to cut through the stuff that everybody hears, what would be better than to put it on kind of video in a kind of membership platform, which I created called Marathon Mastery, with about 6 hours of video content. And what that allowed, while we're on Zoom calls, I could actually do the kind of Zoom calls that were kind of live, so to speak, with people anywhere in the world. I had clients in South Africa and the States or whatever, and that would be where we do the kind of more mindset stuff. But the tactical stuff was, captured forever, if you like, on video.
Wow, fantastic. So was this is this like a prelude to the Couch to 5K that's now around? But you were sort of a little bit more on the marathon side, or
yeah, I wouldn't be as arrogant. Couch to 5K is a massive kind of thing. My humble offering, and this again demonstrates a good point for viewers out there. What I thought I would do is be very, very niche specific, and so I wasn't just focusing on runners, because that's incredibly broad. I wasn't even focusing, believe it or not, on marathon runners. I was focusing on marathon runners who were a bit frustrated because they couldn't get below whatever iconic barrier they had in mind, whether it was the 5-hour barrier, the 4-hour, or even the 3-hour. And that was the aim, the actual kind of motive behind it was to get their times, quicker.
Yeah. Just completing it, Dave, would have been a miracle for me, I think, let alone setting a time barrier. Yeah. I was much more a sprinter when I was in school. It was much more the 100 meters, 200 meters, anything longer than that. And I was like, no, I don't think so. Thank you very much.
We're all built different ways, and you obviously had what are known as fast twitch muscle fibers that are ideal for sprinting.
Yeah. Well, I was a gymnast, so I was. It was much more around those high intensity speeds to get up to bits and pieces, as opposed to the long. That was much more my sister's style. Yeah. But yeah, like you say, I think it's interesting, isn't it? We are all built differently, and again, I suppose in some of that, the way that you approached the marathon coaching was around helping people to break that down as well, and to get over whatever style that they had, or whatever. And again, you mentioned it, the mental barriers.
The biggest mental barrier
thing, it's the mental thing.
The biggest issue I encountered, and I'm trying to kind of relate this to business owners as I speak, was people trying, believe it or not, too hard, just being too obsessed by all this kind of Jane Fonda nonsense that might have worked back in the 70s of no pain, no gain. Yeah. And, one thing we're finding as business owners and solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, whatever, is you have to pace yourself. And I know the cliche with all of what's going on at the moment is it's a marathon, not a sprint, but in any kind of business endeavor, you really do have to look after yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We had that exact conversation this morning on a different call that I was on. We were talking about the pace of change and the speed of change. And one of the things that I said was actually sometimes slowing down gets you the better results.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not about the pace of change that you do, but sometimes it's about making sure that you actually stop and you observe, and you then step forward, as opposed to stepping forward and then kind of going, oh, did I step in the right direction, or did I go in a different direction there? Should I have gone that way when I should have gone that way? And if I'd actually just stopped at the junction, taken a decision and gone left or right, I would have been able to make the right one, and that would have actually got me on the journey a lot faster, because I've now had to backtrack 3 steps to get back on the right track.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it is that way about trying to get your, the speed of change, and and making sure things are done right for you. So we talked about it. You did this coaching course. You had your marathon mastery. That led you into video. So tell me a little bit about how that led into video, and what it is you now do, and how you believe video is there to help business owners expand their services.
Yeah, sure thing. Well, I actually found that I really enjoyed creating these videos, and the bottom line is I'm still doing some marathon coaching on the side, but I did have this conversation with myself, because I'd taken the bold step that is a big step for anybody, of leaving a well-paid public sector job and doing this marathon running coaching. And I just felt, with these newly acquired skills of video creation, that there would be another market out there that could benefit, from those skills. And, not surprisingly, given that I've called it small biz digital media, I thought, well, a lot of small businesses deserve, to, get noticed more, and allow the incredible things they do, to be better represented kind of out there, online. And so, I thought, let's actually set this business up, small biz digital media. And although, I do offer things like podcasts and audiobooks and chatbots and things like this, it is fair to say, which is why you've got me on this subject, that video is probably the flagship. And you kind of kindly asked me just to say, something about why video might be important to them. I actually strongly believe that, video is becoming a must now rather than an option, because, look at what's happening as we're going away. And don't get me wrong, we both do face-to-face networking, when we're allowed back in the past and everything. We're now going on to Zoom. But, it's even more important that you have a strong 24/7 digital presence, as well as rocking up live to things. And, just a few quick things why I think, it is a must is, you want to be able to get social media attention in feeds. That's an obvious thing at a very early stage for people who've never heard of you. Just things like, you might have a really good website and homepage that, is beautifully kind of written with copy and everything, but you're still going to get bounce rate issues, if you can't hold people. And having a really short but engaging video on your homepage would really help. And we're also now, in this mobile revolution where people, again, on social platforms are used to scrolling through, consuming short burst content and moving on. And, video works incredibly well with, mobile kind of platforms and things. So those are, I could go on, but those are a few reasons.
Excellent. Fantastic. So what are your sort of tips? There's lots of different stats out there. I mean, you're absolutely right. More people are now looking at things on phones and scrolling through content on phones. The whole thing to do with, the subscription with Netflix and how that's changed our entire platforms and our entire viewing way. It makes me chuckle. I get notifications on my phone every week now about how much up or down time I've had on my screen time. Jennifer, you were up 14% on the screen time that you did last week. It's like, how many hours did I spend scrolling through things on my phone? My phone now tells me how long I've spent on my phone that week. I know you subscribe to quite short and sharp kind of ways of interacting on the videos, don't you? Tell me what the kind of ethos behind that is and how that's helped your clients.
For sure, they can be short and sharp. They don't necessarily have to be. I'm kind of, a reporter. For people who know me, I'm a massive Bob Dylan fan. And a reporter famously asked Bob Dylan, "What are your songs about?" And his reply is, well, some of my songs are about 4 minutes, some are about 5, and some, believe it or not, are about 11. So the kind of meaning I'm getting from that is, whatever the objective of that video is and whatever you need to get across, you need to be able to make, the points that actually serve the objective of that video. So if you're trying to sell somebody a £2,000 product or service, you're not going to have a 15-second humorous video with a cat on it or something, because it's not going to it's not really going to do the job. But similarly, if somebody's never heard of you, who are scrolling through their feed, and you just want to make them aware of your business, a 45-minute webinar, although in some cases it might work, isn't going to kind of shoot it, because people will just not be engaged. So shall I give you a few just quick tips?
Please do. That would be amazing. Thank you.
Because I think building on that, I'm not a great one for just doing what I call showboat videos just for its aesthetic. Look at me, I've got an expensive camera, look how good we are. This must mean we're a premium business. I don't think that works anymore. It might have done when people were first adjusting to good filming quality, but I don't think that rocks now. I think what is really important is how that video performs in terms of meeting the objectives that you set for it. And you want to connect with that viewer and what they want for starters before talking about yourself. One big problem I often see on About Me videos is people going through what I call all their ologies and isms of their qualifications before actually calling out the biggest problem that viewer's got and the potential solution. Yeah. And then something else that I did definitely want to fit in if I've got time is there's this wonderful there's the project management triangle of, I think it's cost, time and quality. Well, you know, there's a video marketing one, would you believe? And that's basically message, audio, visuals. And what I mean by that is people will often overlook, because of this thing about making everything visually so compelling, which, you know, admittedly has its importance, but the actual message is crucial, regardless of whether it's 15-second social media video or a 60-minute webinar, as I say. And your script just has to connect with that audience and convince them to take the next step, even if that next step is just, you know, going onto the website and having a cruise around. You know, it's so important. And then the audio quality matters, because if your voiceover is terrible, or the music is incredibly badly matched, you know, then people are going to stop watching, no matter how great the messaging or visuals are. And then what I always say is the visuals are actually going to reinforce and amplify the power of your messaging, that they're not the be all and end all. And that should give great comfort and solace to people who haven't got all this gear and stuff, that, you know, they can still, because, you know, I might be doing myself out of a job a little bit here, but you can, with a few caveats, you know, do good videos yourself. And I've seen them in LinkedIn, you know, on your iPhone. Shall I just briefly, unless you want to follow up on that, I could basically go and just give the viewers a very quick insight of the different types of video that I think really work at the moment.
I'd love that, Dave. I think that's one of the things that, you know, again, as we talked about visually, I think it's nice for people to see the types of things, and yeah, absolutely, and the sort of where you can go.
Yeah, because I'm basically, you know, here's the kind of real honesty minute. I've my website, smallbizdigitalmedia.com, is fine and dandy and everything, but I created it basically 2 years ago. And I think it needs a bit of a refresh. And so what I've done is and this is, you know, due to go live, you know, when I get time to properly work on it, but it's basically now going to be designed along a 5-step buyer's journey that I, you know, urge anybody with a business to, you know, get their kind of prospects to follow. You know, to maximize their sales. And this is relevant because it depends on what video content kind of fits best with those 5 steps. You still with me? So the 5 steps, and they all begin with C very quickly, is firstly, and I've alluded to this several times, you've got to connect with people who've never ever heard of you. So that is connect. And these are typically, and you spoke about it earlier, these are typically the teaser style social media video content, you know, encouraging the viewer to call or visit the website. They're certainly not trying to do anything beyond that, because they wouldn't work with such short content. And one thing, just very quickly, I'll just draw out one thing in this limited time we've got available, but one thing I guess I've made my own a little bit, and I will share this when you kind of upload this so that people can see an example, are these text chat videos. And why they work so well is everybody watching can relate to having a text conversation on their phone. And what, you know, one thing I haven't mentioned yet is, you know, there is nothing more powerful in video marketing than the power of storytelling. But we all know all the jokes about, you know, human attention spans being shorter than goldfish and all that kind of stuff. So the compressed storytelling, these things are always less than a minute, and sometimes they're like 30 seconds. So that really works to hook the viewer. And the other thing that's a little bit more subtle, admittedly, is you actually get third-party customer endorsement, because what it is, and people see when they see the example, it's a fictitious conversation between your biggest skeptic and your biggest fanboy or fangirl, culminating in them being urged to go and visit your website or give the company a call. And the other thing, even though I've done these things on, would you believe, wills and powers of attorney, I always try and get some humour into them, you know, which breaks down buyer resistance ultimately as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I love the text videos that you do. I think they're just they're such a clever way of getting a message across without it being one in your face, too salesy. And like you said, it's that connection, that conversation going on. It doesn't have to be with you and somebody. It could be between two completely independent people talking about your products and service. That's right. Yeah, absolutely fabulous.
Yeah. So step 2, cracking on with this, and I will go through them quickly now. Step 2 is consume, and that is basically to deliver high value content that's easy to consume and implement. And the thing about this step is there's absolutely no selling. So these are basically what I call value videos. They might be tutorial videos for your actual customers. You know, not everything is getting customers and clients. A lot of it is fulfilling their needs in terms of, you know, in your case, you know, like it could be something to explain the CRM. You know, especially some of those CRMs I've seen probably need better tutorial videos that are actually the company run, to be honest. But that's controversial. So yeah, you know, that's, and then, you know, one thing I'm going to be getting into for folk is something called auto webinars, where you create a really good bit of content for just 45 minutes, really condense it down. And then you don't fool people and say they're live, because that's cheating. But you basically say, look, here's a webinar, it's an event time, and you can make it really good, but set it up, you know, as an event, and you know, basically provide real value. So that's consume.
Excellent.
And then step 3, and I say step, but it could be a circle of stones, because they're not necessarily linear, is convince. And we're getting closer, you know, to the all-important sale, but we're not quite there yet. And this is to help convince people that you and your products and services can meet their needs. And we're now into the more kind of classic, traditional explainer videos, about us videos I mentioned earlier. Something I'm getting into a little bit now is animated videos, because that can break complicated stuff, you know, particularly if it's more abstract about software and stuff, into kind of understandable concepts. But typical me, because of my, you know, I don't like being too me too about these things. So my little kind of spin on this is I've actually created something called interactive video, where if you've got a lot of information, you can actually start watching a video, and then the video pauses deliberately, not because you've bust the bandwidth or anything, and you get these kind of icons, and it allows you to choose which aspect of that product or service you're most interested in, or it might be multiple products and services, you know, within that video, to explore more, because every viewer has got a different kind of intention when they come on, and it just allows that to be a bit more kind of targeted, and it allows you. So
does that mean the consumer can actually choose their own journey through the video then?
They choose. You said you've hit the nail on the head. It's actually called, the kind of nickname is Choose Your Own Adventure Video. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So
Love it. Yeah.
So that's the convince stage. Only 2 more. And now the rubber is actually really hitting the road, because we're now getting into convert, and that is. But even then, it's not necessarily an out and out sales video. It could be to convert your prospect into just becoming a lead and capturing their contact details, so you can follow up and actually give them value, you know, before kind of asking for any kind of transaction. So, but it is, the essential thing is, though, is it is asking for some form of commitment by now. It's not just ungated kind of, you know, consuming anymore. You are trying to get a little bit of commitment to you and your brand. And as I say, you know, in video terms, although I do chatbots and things, that's typically lead videos and sales videos, that kind of stuff. So that's the penultimate one. And then what we've got at the end, it's quite hard finding a C that captured this, but, you know, I went through my thesaurus, and I came up with commend. And that is to attract more businesses by encouraging your best customers to actually commend your work. And, you know, this is obviously the classic here, testimonial videos, but a couple of variations on that is I also do something called a key, and I'll share this, you know, when we share the things, so I've got a good example. I call it a keyword review video, and what I do is I tease out reviews that people have already given in written form for businesses, and I pick out like the key word, like efficient, reliable, all that kind of stuff. And then I'll put some compelling images behind it. You'll see an example. And that kind of becomes a 1-minute video where you don't necessarily have, you don't have the person actually on the screen, because there's multiple. That obviously relies on you having more than, like, say, one review. But
and lots of different words in those reviews.
Lots of different words, but I love words, so I enjoy doing it for people. And on the test, this is a tiny plug, if you don't mind. On the testimonial videos, where I'm a bit different, I guess, is if you don't yet have testimonials for each of your services, I've just invested in a platform that allows the business's customers, your customers, to simply click on a link, record the video testimonial there and then, like no friction, whatever device they've tapped or clicked on, and then just press or tap on a button, and then it comes back to me on my kind of platform, and then I can either leave it at that or add, some kind of name and all that kind of stuff. So that is something.
Very clever.
That's something I'm rolling out in the next few days, actually.
And that's great. I mean, and that kind of comes in a little bit into, like you've just talked about, either whether these 5 steps are linear or circular, because if you're doing a consume video or you're doing a convert video, or you talked about doing webinars. What is one of the calls to actions at the end of the webinar? If you've liked this, would you leave a testimonial? How many people don't take advantage of either having a video testimonial done, or if you're trying to get a video testimonial, how difficult is it to actually get them to do it there and then, to take the action? If you could follow up, here I am in my CRM system and my process flows, follow that up with the webinar, and then a link on that webinar screen to say, click this link here to leave a testimonial. And all they have to do is press the button and then press submit, and all of that comes in. That's a genius way of gathering great video content.
Thank you. And it's very time. I have to say, it's incredibly timely at the moment. Because of the difficulty of getting testimonials for obvious reasons with social distancing, but also more subtly, in the new normal world, there is going to be much closer scrutiny before people make buying decisions. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And those third-party testimonials and endorsements are so powerful when you're trying to, either launch a new product or service or reach a new marketplace, just to be able to give people that credibility of what it is you're offering. So that's brilliant. So I love that. So I've written the 5 steps down. So I'm going to run through them just so you can tick me off and make sure I've got them down. So it's connect, consume, convince, convert, and commend.
Spot on.
Beautiful. Excellent. I love all of those. And again, like you say, different lengths of video, different styles of video, all doing the same. So again, not doing the same job, but doing the same work in order to help embed themselves in that strategy. And I know you're working with a number of business owners where you're doing various different types of those. So you might be doing some of the little text chat videos to get things up. You're doing some more of the more formal ones with the information and the consuming videos and the convincing videos. But it's about having that blend, isn't it? It's about not sticking to one or the other. It's about making sure you've got that content being sent out.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because, one other thing to bring in about my background is, I've got a research background. I've got a PhD, and I was a research manager for many years at the Environment Agency. And the reason I say all of that isn't to get all nostalgic. It's basically because, one of the things I do is I will always research a business before I start doing some work with them. And it's not unheard of, actually, for them to ostensibly come with a very clear idea of a certain type of video they want. And then I go and look at their offerings, and I kind of come back to them and say, look, at the risk of doing no business with you, I don't think that video is actually appropriate, because you've covered, pick an example that came up recently. They had explainer videos. They had loads of them, and they wanted another one. And I thought, this is not needed. What you really need are some testimonials and something at the front end. So,
Brilliant. Excellent. And I think that's a skill as well, isn't it? And that's a benefit to having somebody who understands this marketplace and can look at things from that point of view, as opposed to being in the business and looking at it only from the one angle. Is just by being able to use an expert and by being able to look at it, you are able to come up with maybe just a different idea and a different analysis and a look at it, which would be more beneficial. I mean, yeah, you could just say, yeah, give me the money, I'll do another explainer video. Yeah, that's great. But what benefit to the client is that, you know, actually by looking at things in a different way and just by being using your skills and your knowledge to come up with a different angle would probably be much more beneficial to them and give them better results for what they're trying to achieve. So, and
it's more satisfying for me as a creator, because you're plugging a gap and you're, you know, shock horror actually helping them rather than just you know, doing another gig, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned the new website, Dave. What else is next? What are you looking at? Who are good people for you to work with? Who would you like to work with? And, you know,
it's going to sound a bit odd, but and I've got nothing against very trendy businesses like cafes and restaurants. They're all fantastic, and I can't wait for more coffee shops to open again because I love coffee. But I tend to go for more boring, drier professional services, because I honestly think there are massive opportunities, you know, for them, you know, kind of selfishly for them, if you like, to promote themselves and get into these new media. But then in a more kind of altruistic way, I honestly think there are huge messages to get out with, you know, with the pandemic and everything around HR and, you know, legal problems and all these things that are troubling people. Yeah. And, you know, I think there is an absolute need to simplify information and at the front end, just get people, you know, getting on the phone because they're aware of what some of these great services that people offer out there.
Yeah, fabulous. Excellent. Well, I cannot thank you enough. I hope you guys have got some great content. I think you have been given some amazing hints and tips and ideas from this recording. So Dave, I cannot thank you enough for joining me today. I know I've learned a few bits and pieces on what I should be doing and where we could be taking things, so that's fabulous. So please do check out the websites that we'll put in the box below. Dave's also kindly going to be giving us some examples of different types of videos, so please do check them out. And as we mentioned, his website of smallbizdigitalmedia.com, please do make sure that you check that out, connect with him on all of the social media platforms such as LinkedIn, Twitter. Are you still doing your free consultation, Dave? I know you do a quick conversation.
Yeah, I do. I've offered that since I started, and given everything I've said about looking, you know, critically at the business and what they offer and everything, that doesn't change. On the website thing, you know, if people kind of went now, it's still like it was 2 years ago, but so in time, you know, if people are watching this, you know, it will have the new navigation with those 5 C's on it.
Fantastic. Excellent. So yeah, so if you are thinking about video, if it's something that you are looking at for your strategy moving forward on how you can be taking potentially what might be seen as a difficult subject, or as Dave said, a dry subject, something that's quite technical, and you've been trying to figure out how you might get that message across to your client base in a more visual way, in a more interesting way, then please do give Dave a ring. I'm sure he'd be delighted to have that conversation with you and come up with some ideas about how you might be able to use video and the styles of videos that you can use just to make that a little bit more interesting and more engaging for your clients. So thank you very much for joining me today on RTV, Dave. Again, I appreciate you taking your time and spending all this time with me and sharing some great nuggets of information. So thank you so much. Guys, please do drop me some messages. Let me know what you thought about the content. Let me know if there's anything else that you might want me to cover or anything else that you are looking for help and advice on, and I will do my best to grab my network of contacts and get somebody on to help you. So I look forward to seeing you again soon, and we will be saying our goodbyes. Thanks very much.